to the Little Miss. Welcome to the Little Miss Movies podcast, where two movie-obsessed parents make their 10-year-old watch movies she'd never watch otherwise. This is episode number 12, Devil in a Blue Dress.
Hi, welcome to the Little Miss Movies podcast. My name is Christina, and I'm a writer. I write biographies of movie stars and have a book on Jane Russell coming out this June. I'm also a librarian and an archivist. I also happen to be a mother to Little Miss Movies.
That's interesting. Because my name is Josh, and I am a television writer and a musician and stuff like that. Stuff and things.
Stuff like that there.
And I'm also a parent to a daughter of the age of 10 who is also known as Little Miss Movies.
Hi, I'm Gable. I'm 10. I'm Little Miss Movies, as you probably guessed. I'm in 5th grade, and I like writing, reading, playing Minecraft, Animal Crossing, and Legend of Zelda, and watching TV, and watching movies, and playing the piano, and playing the cello. A lot of stuff, basically.
A lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff and things.
And things.
You take after me
Stuff
with
like
the
that
stuff
there.
and things.
The stuff and things.
So we've been doing for Black History Month, we've been trying to expand our horizons, and we've reached out to some of our friends for recommendations for movies. So if you listened to last week's episode, my friend Oba recommended Hairspray by John Waters, not the musical, the original movie. And we had a blast, not just watching it with Gable, but also talking about it. And this week we went to another good friend of mine who I've known I've known Rob for over a decade, probably. This is Rob Guillory, who is a comic book artist and writer, and just a fantastically great dude. So I will let him take it away.
Hi, this is Rob Guillory, artist of Image Comics Chew and author of Image Comics Farmhand. And my pick for the Little Miss Movies podcast is Devil in a Blue Dress, starring Denzel Washington, adapted from Walter Mosley's fantastic story of the same name. And yeah, there's just so many reasons to love this movie, from the classic hard-boiled mystery setup to Denzel's performance. Denzel's pretty amazing in everything he's ever done. All the way to Don Cheadle's amazing character Mouse, who just steals every scene that he's in. This is just a personal favorite film of mine. And I think the reason I chose this for my Black History Month selection is just this film's uncanny ability to take the racial realities of the late 1940s America and just build a really rich tapestry of story within it. You know, it never feels preachy or driven by a political agenda. It educates the audience through the eyes of Easy Rawlins. It just immerses you right into his world and makes you care about Easy, not simply as a black man, but really as a whole man. And in my opinion, that makes this movie not just an educational look at the history of Black America, but just really an incredible story that just sucks you in. You gotta watch it, so check it out.
Thank you so much, Rob. Really appreciate that. And we find ourselves in sort of like my second favorite, like close to favorite genre. Like I go horror first, but noir is probably my almost favorite genre.
I'm just really excited now. Happy Valentine's Day. We're recording this the day before Valentine's Day, so probably listen to this after, but happy late Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
I think this is coming out probably on President's Day, so happy President's Day.
There you go.
Okay, back
Back
to
to
noir.
movie. Sorry.
It's noir. Film noir has always been one of my favorite genres. Like, I love crime films. I love detective noir. I love books. I love all that stuff. And Devil in a Blue Dress is it's a movie that I saw. I mean, I saw it probably when it came out, so it's been 20 years since I've seen it. Is that about right? Like, it came out in
95, I think. 1995. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been since then that I've seen it, and I think it was your first time seeing it, right, Christina?
I had never seen it before, so it was one of those movies that I always meant to see, because it does take place in Los Angeles, and I never did. And I'll say noir, and I know this is kind of blasphemous. This is one of those genres I can kind of take or leave. Like I'll watch noir, but I'm not as passionate about it as many people in my life are. I will say though, I loved this movie. I absolutely loved this movie. So thank you, Rob, for finally
Making you watch it.
prompting me. He didn't make me, but for finally prompting me to watch it. Because yeah, I really enjoyed it. But Gable,
Maybe Gable.
this is the Little Miss Movies podcast.
So it really matters. I think we should start. We've been working behind the scenes to try and really finesse how we do this.
Make it more.
So Gable, if you answer incorrectly, you will not get dinner for a week.
What?
What? Would you like to? Can you give a simple synopsis of what the movie is about?
without giving spoilers, because I'm guessing there are probably a lot. I'm guessing this is one of those movies that a lot of people probably haven't watched. Maybe.
Okay, so this is gonna be a bit hard, but it's about a guy named Easy,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's his name, and so this takes place in 1944, right?
48.
48, so close. And so he loses his job, but he gets a new job as a detective to hunt down. Is he hunting down the girl or the photos?
Girl.
Girl.
The girl.
To hunt down the girl who's like the mayor's daughter, I think. I don't know, something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
You're
This
close.
is hard.
We're close. We're good. Well, no, that's one of the things about the movie, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, is that part of what makes a noir is that it has a very twisty-turny
Okay, good.
yeah. plot.
Yeah.
Right.
this is
So
hard.
he's tasked with trying to track down. He's a Black American, and he is hired by a white American to go and track down another white lady who likes to spend her time with Black people. And so therefore the white guy feels like he can't find her because nobody will talk to him. So he hires Easy, even though Easy has no experience as a detective whatsoever. So he sort of just hires him because he's a Black guy without a job, is sort of how it's put to him. Right?
Yeah. So in the rest of the movie, he's like,
And then how did things go? Did they go well or not so well for Easy?
not so well.
Yeah, not great.
Not great.
Yeah. And then you get sort of like, it's sort of almost like a conspiracy thriller, right? Do you know what a conspiracy is?
Yeah, it's like, I know what a conspiracy theory is.
Mhm.
It's like something like totally crazy, like, like the earth is flat. Like, that's a conspiracy theory. So it's like stuff that people, like, they make up, like, no scientific proof or anything. And they're just like, okay, this is what I think. I'm going to convince other people to think this.
So a conspiracy thriller, yes. Does a conspiracy theory as we think of them now, I guess has always been somebody who builds a series of connections between unrelated events in order to convince themselves there is a bigger plot against them. A conspiracy theory is a story about a series of
Conspiracy thriller.
Conspiracy thriller, is in fact a story based around a bunch of seemingly unrelated things that do actually lead to a bigger plan or plot against somebody or something in the story. So this is definitely a conspiracy thriller, right? There's all these forces are sort of like going on around Easy that he has to try and figure out where his place is within all of them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes more sense than how I was trying to explain it.
So your big comment after we watched it which is also the same comment after you saw Double Indemnity for the first time.
That wasn't the same comment. I said it for Double Indemnity. I didn't like all the murder and double crossing.
Okay, so what did you think about this on that front? Just the murdering you didn't like.
Yeah.
But you're okay with the double crossing.
There wasn't.
A little bit of double crossing.
There's double crossing.
Oh, there's double crossing.
I didn't like there was a murder mystery. How about that?
But I mean, you sat through the movie. I mean, this wasn't one of the movies where you continuously asked us to pause it to see how much time was left. So I would
I asked you like 5 times.
No, you
10
didn't.
times. Yeah, I did.
to pause it to see how. No, you did not
Yeah, I
ask at
did.
all.
No, you
I
asked us
did.
to pause it to explain
To
things.
explain stuff.
Yeah, I also wanted to see how much longer there was.
Oh, I stand corrected.
So, I know you did. So, the murder mystery stuff was a turnoff, right? What about the rest of the movie? What about all the stuff around it? So, the look and feel of it, the time period, the design,
Characters.
the characters.
I'm thinking, I liked the time period. That was pretty cool. It was also kind of depressing that was like the segregation, but other than that, yeah, I like the time period.
What did you like?
If
What did you like
what
about?
you mean?
What did you like about the? Well, do you like the look of the time period?
Yeah.
What did you like about
I think
it?
they did a good job recreating it. I mean, I assume that's what 1948 looked like, but I think they did a good job of like creating it and making it look like this happened, like this actually happened or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a video somebody took. I think it looked kind of cool.
Okay.
Character.
Well, in terms of that, your mom is actually kind of an expert. I'm going to go with kind of an expert
Expert.
on the heyday of Los Angeles way back then in those early years.
Way back when.
Way back when she was a lad.
She wasn't alive
not
in
a lad in
1948.
You were neither a lad nor alive.
No.
She would have been almost 100.
Your grandmother was born in 1948.
Oh, wait, hold on, I did the math wrong.
Your grandmother is not 100.
I did the math wrong on accident. 80.
Yeah.
Like it feels like, to me at least, it feels like it's pretty spot on. Like they're using different streets to represent the streets they're showing, but
Yeah, like Main Street, like the opening scene on Main Street. The opening scene on supposed to be Central Avenue, which was the jazz hub of Los Angeles at that time. Main Street is doubling in because in 19. Yeah, I don't think you couldn't do it now. Main Street looks, a lot of those buildings are still there, but Main Street down where they were filming that, which is around 4th and Main, in 1995, I think could be redressed for 1940s Los Angeles, and I don't know if it could anymore. It certainly has become like kind of a hip place. But yeah, I think they do, a marvelous job recreating the look of it with, the cars. Man, they put a lot of cars in this movie. Like there are just lots of street scenes with lots of cars that they took a lot of time and care. The neighborhood where Easy lives, the residential neighborhood is, at least 25 years ago, all of those little homes were of that period. So yeah, I think they do a fantastic job. And I don't know if I've talked about how I'm a librarian and an archivist, but my primary job is I oversee the photo collection for the Los Angeles Public Library. And my understanding is that one of our collections, Shades of LA, which are family photos that the library collected so that our photo collection could better represent all of the culturally diverse neighborhoods in the city. My understanding is that that collection was actually consulted and used as reference for this film, because this film came out in 95 in the Shades of LA project, which the focus of the project really early on was to collect Black family photos, had started in 1991 and had gotten a lot of press. And so they actually did utilize that collection, which I think all of our photos of Central Avenue are from that collection, were referenced for this film.
And I think one of the things that I think the movie does that's interesting that you don't see a lot of in movies with Black protagonists, especially being made in the 90s, like up through the 90s for that matter, is that he's portrayed like as living in an upscale neighborhood, that he's very much upwardly mobile. Like you actually get a sense of, this sort of like suburban idyllic life that was actually coming to become a reality, that despite the fact, like you said, Gable, where you have, the racism and the segregation and all those things are certainly oppressive and certainly a big part of the plot. But the other big part of the plot is he's a homeowner.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I love so much about this movie, is that is his, because he goes down this rabbit hole of just awfulness So he agrees to take this job, and it just, this domino, one thing after another. But the thing that motivates him is he needs to pay his mortgage, and that he has so much pride in ownership and so much pride in his neighborhood that it is this motivating factor to go down this road. And, which I think is relatable, and you get it. And, one of the things that was going on at that time all around the country, including here in Los Angeles, is that, Black people and other minorities were limited to where they could own property. So, so me and Dad, like when we were looking for a house to buy, like we could like go anywhere, right? Maybe we couldn't afford it in some places, but if we found a house that we could afford, we could buy anywhere. And for a time, that was not the case here in Los Angeles. There were certain neighborhoods that only white people could buy in. And there was actually like the deed, which is like the paper that designates the property owner. There would be things called racial covenants, and it would actually say, like, you cannot sell this house to a Black person. You cannot sell this house to an Asian person. You can only sell this house to a white person. And that was something that existed not that long ago. And so that's why you had, and South Los Angeles was one of the few places in the city where Black people could actually own homes. And so that's where this neighborhood develops. And I think also in the San Fernando Valley where we live, there's an area called Pacoima. And that was another area where Black people were allowed to buy property. And so, yeah, I do think it's really interesting that is his motivation, is being able to pay his mortgage.
Well, and even like when he gets jumped or he gets beat up, or like of all the like insults he takes, it's them breaking into his house where he's like, "Oh, come on." Like, that's now you've gone too far.
And they're not even like ransacking his house. They're like making a sandwich in his house, and he freaks out. But I love that so many of the scenes are him at his house. It's him gardening out front. It's him, taking a nap on his front porch.
Yeah. Well, it's him essentially protecting the neighborhood and making sure that the neighborhood is, kept like to his standards. Like it's such an interesting counterpoint, I think, to what you see in the rest, like sort of, because you see the kind of underbelly and you see all this kind of underhandedness of the rest of the movie, to actually sort of also get to see the like, oh right, like there was happiness, there was progress being made despite all of the massive roadblocks that were put up in front of them. I think that's the part that's sort of the soothing part, I think, of the movie for me.
Yeah. Well, and it still exists though, despite it all. My first job with the library system was at a branch in South Los Angeles. And like, I'll admit, kind of embarrassingly admit that I was terrified to go work in this neighborhood because like in the 1980s on the news, you just heard about how bad South Los Angeles was and how there were gangs and how there was crack and how, it was just a war zone. And there were certainly, bad elements because these are neighborhoods that the city is not investing in. These are neighborhoods that corporate America is not investing in. There is still, even though there isn't segregation, officially, these neighborhoods are still impacted in that manner. But when I worked at that branch, these were like lovely little neighborhoods that still have these gorgeous, like 1930s and 1940s homes. And these are still people that have huge pride of ownership that still have to overcome just all of the garbage that they're subjected to. So, those themes that they're portraying in this movie from the 1940s are, still true now, for good, for good or bad. These are areas that are still highly uninvested in. No, so I do think it's a nice, even though it's purely fictional, I do think it's a nice mini history lesson on Los Angeles at that time and an aspect of, Los Angeles history that is not explored that often. So I think it does serve that purpose, whether you liked it or not, because I know it's not your style, Gable. I think you would much prefer that Easy was like riding a dragon.
Yes.
Around the city.
I totally would have. That would have been awesome.
You were still learning about our city's history, and I think in a in a somewhat accurate way.
And I think like that was kind of Rob's point, right? Is that you actually get to sort of like see the practical applications of what life was like back then, but it's not smacking you over the head, and it's not preachy. Like it's just a movie. And that's, you know, the sort of the next thing I wanted to talk about was the idea of film tropes. And that's what, you know, what this movie does really well. What Walter Mosley, who actually wrote the novel, one of the things that he does just brilliantly in all of his books too, is he takes all of the sort of like basic conventions of storytelling, of the genre that he's working in, and he just manages to use them to hide the story he wants to tell. So, and that's something like we were talking before we started recording, Gable, we were talking about how, you know, every story has sort of little, like every type of story, there's little tricks that keep us going. And so the one that I said that is like probably the easiest that you can name a bunch of characters for really quickly is in every adventure story, the hero always has a funny sidekick. So like
in Harry Potter, it's Ron.
Yeah, who's the funny sidekick in Lord of the Rings?
Whatever his name is.
Samwise.
Sam.
Right? And in Star Wars,
R2.
it's R2 and C-3PO. Right? So that's just, it's a trope. It's just one of those things. It's the same every Disney movie. All the Disney movies, all the princesses have.
Really?
Yeah, like what's her name has
animals.
Rapunzel has the little Greek
the chameleon.
Pascal.
Yeah. You know, like they all have little sidekicks. They'll have the little thing that they talk to. Oh, like Olaf in Frozen is that character. Pomone and Simba. Is that their name? Timon and Simba.
Yes.
Is that their names?
I don't know who that is.
Not Puma shoes.
The Lion King.
The Lion King.
Apu in it's
Simpsons?
Abu. Sorry, we've been watching a lot of Simpsons lately. Abu and Aladdin.
So what he's doing is he's taking, you know, the crime fiction genre. So there's been this type of story has its origins at like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Do you remember Edgar Allan Poe?
I remember the Raven poem.
Right. So that guy, he did a book called Murder at the Rue Morgue, is one of his most important works. And it's kind of like a proto version of this story. It's very much, you know, a crime story. It very much is about a detective in over his head. It has all those things, right? It has all these little pieces.
But it's just a poem.
Murder through Morgue? No, it's a story.
Okay.
I mean, The Raven's not really a poem either. Like, The Raven's a story.
It's like a super duper long poem.
Yeah. But most of his...
He did both, though.
Yeah.
Poe did both.
Yeah. Yeah, Poe's a whole other thing. We can show you a large collection of Vincent Price Edgar Allan Poe movies. There's multiple box sets.
I'm alright.
You're missing out. They're great.
Alright.
They're great and almost never have anything to do with the actual book. It's very strange. Very,
Yeah, I'm
very
alright.
strange. Very, very strange. So then the next thing that kind of happened is you started to have these pulp magazines. And these pulp magazines were like fiction, big fat collections of short fiction that would have, you know, essentially detective stories that were, you know, either short stories or they were a little syndicated. Like you'd get little chunks of them here and there. And every month you get another part of it. And all that stuff was building these stories about, you know, guys who had usually like a male hero who is sort of morally questionable. You know what that means?
Like, he has a weird backstory.
Yeah, that's true. That is accurate. More that like whether he's not quite a good guy. Like he's sort of in a grand sense, he's a good guy. He's
the protagonist.
Yeah. Rick in Casablanca is actually, that's kind of like he's actually a good example, right? Because he is technically a good guy and he has a heart of gold, but that heart of gold is also, he's doing a bunch of illegal things and he's got all this other stuff going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he's complicated. It means you're a complicated hero, right?
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The second trope is generally that complicated hero gets involved in a case that he doesn't see all of. He doesn't understand the like entirety of what he is hired to do or put in charge of, right?
Yeah.
Then the third trope is usually there's a love interest of some kind involved. There's usually a woman or a family member or somebody who's going to, you know, draw him into the story. Fourth is that person is always going to turn on him. Always. There will always be, like, always. always. And then fifth, at the end of the story, everyone is going to be only moderately better off. And I think those are the five. Like, those are the five things that I think are pretty uniform across everything else.
I know for the fourth one, it's like a double indemnity. The girl who's like, okay, I was evil, but because of you, I'm not evil anymore.
I'm slightly less evil now. Yeah.
I'm not and she goes like, I'm not evil anymore. And she's like, you know what? I was lying to you. I'm evil. And then like 5 seconds later, she's just like,
but
no.
I'm not evil.
And she's like, no, I'm not evil. And then he has a gun out, and she's just like, I'm not evil. I'm not evil. And then he goes over her, and she's just like, no, I am evil. Shoot me.
So there's a bunch of no, I'm evil. There's a bunch of authors who are kind of thought of as like the patron saints of the genre. There's one named Raymond Chandler, who was, I think, probably thought like he's probably the one, right? Like, he's probably the biggest and most beloved of all those guys. Dashiell Hammett is another one. Mm-hmm. Ed McBain is another one. Like, there's a ton of these guys, and they started writing what became, these pulp novels, these little dime store books that were either collecting short stories they wrote before, or these little, like 140-page novels. And the thing about those little 140-page novels is they turned into movies really easily. They took very little adapting. And because they were very small crime movies, that generally meant they had a cast of like 6, right? So it's a very small cast. And because it's a crime movie, like when you think of something that's got that like underbelly feel, is that thing super bright and shot out in the daylight, or is it shot at night?
Daylight or the sun?
No, I'm saying in general.
In general.
Like when you hear it's about sketchy people doing sketchy things, are you like, they're probably doing it in the daylight?
No.
They're doing it at night, right?
Oh, I thought you were asking in this one.
No, so that became like that's sort of another trope, is it's lots of shadowy people doing shadowy things.
In the shadows.
Shadowy
people doing shadowy things in the shadows.
Which, while it totally sucks to shoot at night, is actually, especially back then when you were shooting on backlots, is way cheaper because you don't have to light things. And you already have all these buildings just standing there as, as backdrops, essentially. So you could shoot things and not really have to worry about it. And then a lot of times you could even shoot them with handheld cameras, because having that sort of like rough and ready look also feels, that gritty look, like feels like it works. So those movies existed, pretty much from like, I mean, you could argue Maltese Falcon is the first one, and that's what, like, when's the Bogart Maltese Falcon?
Is that like 41?
It's early. I know it's early.
Yeah.
It's very, very early. And that type of movie lasted as like a fairly sophisticated genre until like the mid-50s. And then it sort of drifted out, and you started getting more, horror movies and science fiction movies, and then just sort of straight adult dramas. Everything kind of, it sort of dissipated a little bit. But crime writers kept it going. So there's always been that kind of book. And then it became a thing again in the 70s. There's a movie called Chinatown that is also about Los Angeles. And it's also about corruption in Los Angeles, and is a masterpiece. Like, it is one of the great movies of all time. Like, it's on the poster, as we say on the podcast. It's definitely on the poster. And that movie was shot in 74? I think 74.
I think so.
And
somewhere around there.
But takes place in the 40s. It's actually about, it's actually about, a double cross that happens that involves like the future of the city. It's really, really good. And from that, it sort of relit the genre. So you start having people, following that genre again, and it started to become prominent again. Which gets you to Walter Mosley. So Walter Mosley, this is his first book. It's his first novel. And the book is really good. Like, the movie's really good. The book is really, really good.
The book is one of those cases that happens in like half the movies that are based off of books, where the book is better than the movie.
The movie's pretty awesome. I can't remember. I haven't read the book, and it's almost as long as I hadn't seen the movie, so I can't remember if it's better or not. But Walter's writing is what he does really well. And we noticed, it's funny, like I don't think we talked about this, but I did a book that was like my big crime noir, thing. Like this is me loving crime noir. And it's funny because the plot is so similar to this, and it's because it's like very much about tropes. Like the way he takes the general tropes of the medium and then changes them and puts them on their head. So he's taking all these things that we see, like Denzel's character, it's almost like paint by numbers on the plot side of it. But in terms of how to like make it not feel like that and to make it his own and to make it feel alive, the way that he infuses history, an unseen history to a lot of people, and culture into it makes it a story that only he could tell, right? That like only would work under those terms. So he takes the genre and he uses the genre as like a scaffolding, you know what I mean, or like a skeleton. And then what his magic is that he puts this like wonderful shape around it. And for me, like that is what makes genre interesting. So what makes horror movies and science fiction movies and crime movies and war movies and all of those like quote unquote like hard genre things, that's what makes those movies interesting, is that you can use all that stuff to get away with something else. And again, like I think in this story, he's getting away with telling a very like intricately told story about class and culture that actually just feels like a great potboiler.
Well, and I think, you at times get really caught up in the story as just being like this classic hard boiled, and you just fall into it and kind of forget about everything else. And then these instances of race and class suddenly pop up. And you go, oh, that's right. This is not just your typical hard-boiled detective story. And I also love that he's not a detective, and that when it starts out, he's just this dude who lost his job. And you slowly see like his evolution and how he starts to become a detective, which I thought was really
Which is also kind of like, it's also kind of a trope, right? It's also one of those other things. It's a lot of...
Is it? I feel like a lot of them, like they're just the detective right out the door. Or I think I'm just thinking more of like
the Sam Spade.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of like the hard-boiled detective as opposed to just the noir story.
No, like one of the things is it's because it's frequently like somebody who falls into a situation that's above their head, right? It's almost like that's always the thing, whether they're a detective or not.
Yeah.
But think of like DOA. He's like a businessman who just drinks the wrong drink, essentially, right? Yeah. Think of Detour. He's just a guy driving down the road.
Yeah.
Chinatown, he's a detective, but he's not the right kind of detective.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Why do they all have such weird names?
Because that's also a trope.
That is also a trope.
It is also a trope that, this guy, like in Devil in a Blue Dress, his name's Ezekiel, but everybody calls him Easy, which is, very... hard-boiled.
Ezekiel. He should be called like Zeke or something.
Yeah, they call him Easy Rawlins, which is a great name. And this ended up, I think Mosley ended up writing, like 14 books of this character, and I think goes like through the 1960s. And I think it's so the movie bombed. I think it didn't do well, and
I thought that people called him Easy as in speakeasy.
No, it was an abbreviation of his name.
But it's also because it's his character, right? Like he's actually fairly easygoing, right? So it suits. It's both. It works as both his actual nickname and like a descriptive of him. Like that's again like the Sam Spade of it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has that very like Sam Spade has that implication of like he just gets into things as though he's a shovel, like as he is a spade. they all have that sort of like simple, like simplified version. So yeah, like you said, that was the other thing is, the movie didn't do super well, and it's kind of heartbreaking because
It's a drag.
yeah,
It's a drag that this didn't launch a franchise of these films based on these books, because it was fantastic. And can we stop and talk about Don Cheadle for a second?
Who is that?
So that's Mouse, the friend,
the crazy guy,
the trigger happy friend.
the guy who shows up and just starts shooting people accidentally over and over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this character, dear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What did you think of him?
He's a very weird character.
Yeah.
It's very weird that he just was super happy to kill people. That was weird and very unsettling.
Was it? Did you find him amusing at all, or
No.
you just we were raising a very moral kid?
What's that mean?
Do you have a very strict moral code about
Yeah.
what you find
Yeah,
acceptable?
I like stuff that's like Harry Potter.
Yeah. Well, that's your entertainment code. Your code of entertain fix. I don't know what that is. I don't know if there's something there. Is there something there? There's nothing, no.
The
I don't
Code
know,
of
but there's
Entertain
Maybe there is. Maybe we've just hit on something. Well, I thought he was. I thought he was. He steals every scene he's in.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. He's so great.
He's so great in it. So yeah, it's a real bummer. But again, I meant to go see the movie when it came out, and I didn't. So I was clearly part of the problem.
No, and like when we talked about it, was 2 years before L.A. Confidential. So in L.A. Confidential, Gable is another film noir that was made in 97,
I think.
that is very good. It's very, very, very good. I don't know that it's better than this.
I liked this better.
They're pretty close.
Yeah, I liked this one better, I think.
And L.A. Confidential was nominated for a ton of awards and won multiple Oscars, I think, right?
I think so.
She won. I know Kim Basinger won.
Yeah.
I feel like
I know
Curtis
she
Hanson
did.
won. Could be wrong.
I don't remember.
We didn't do research on that movie.
No, we didn't.
God damn it.
This is not a podcast episode about that movie.
That is right.
That's true.
That's
That is
the
the best we
reason.
can do.
That is the reason, Data.
That's true.
If we'd have somebody either request it, if it's for our Black History Month, or one of you guys can do it. But we can't talk about it on this
Well, I think
episode.
we've learned our lesson for like this next 3 months of showing you film noirs because you're so angry. You're so outraged.
What? That we're going to show her film noirs?
Nothing but.
You're going to break her?
I'm gonna break her. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we can take a break from film noirs. Instead, nothing but 70s horror.
No.
Just nothing.
That's even worse.
It's gonna be Texas Chainsaw.
No, it's even
It's
worse.
gonna be Scanners.
Mama, tell Daddy to do stuff that I'll
Videodrome.
actually like.
We are not showing her Videodrome.
I mean, she loves Blondie.
No,
What?
honey, that's me.
Yeah.
I love Blondie. I don't know.
nuts.
I don't know if Gable really knows who Blondie
I
is.
don't know what that
nuts.
is, but I don't think I like that.
So a couple other things. So the director of Devil in the Blue Dress is Carl Franklin, who is actually an actor and was actually on for quite a bit. He was on the A-Team.
Was he really?
He was on the A-Team. Just saying. He was on I can't remember if he replaced because Mr. T left at some point, didn't he?
Did Mr. T left? I don't know.
I think he did.
If he left, that would have been when I stopped watching the A-Team.
He was Captain Crane.
Yeah.
I don't
Any of
remember.
that.
My knowledge of the A-Team has been almost entirely taken from me, except for the Boy George episode. That is all I have.
What is that?
The A-Team?
Oh, honey.
Oh, it was a TV show.
I think we just found out our next podcast, which is
No.
make Gable
But is it
watch
right
the
that
A-Team.
nobody died on the A-Team? So she might like it.
That's
I
true.
don't think anybody ever died on the A-Team.
It's true. It stars Mr. T. You know Mr. T?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
What? You
No, I
know.
don't.
Really?
Oh, there's no way you don't know Mr. T.
You pity the fool, Gable. You pity the fool.
Oh, I pity us. if
Stop
we haven't-
thinking I know things
introduced
that
you
I
to
don't
Mr. T.
know.
Wow, we have failed you.
Stop thinking
have
I
failed
know
you.
things that I don't know.
And
But anyways, sorry. So he was an actor for a long time, and then he became he directed a bunch of really, really great movies. Many of them with Denzel. he did One False Move. He did Out of Time. He did High Crimes, and then he moved over to directing TV, and now he's like a really, really, really good TV director. He directs really great stuff. He did House of Cards. He's done some Leftovers. He did a bunch of episodes of Mindhunter. Like he's incredibly talented. He's had a really, really great career. And he both like wrote and directed Devil in the Blue Dress. Like he really took it, and again, he did an interesting job adapting it because like, to my memory, it is pretty much spot on. There's not a lot different. It really, like, it captures the book pretty beautifully. And just, like, really, he executes the vision in a way that, like, again, as a writer who has seen his work adapted, like, it is what every writer sort of hopes when you hand stuff over, that you hope is going to come out the other end. And very rarely does.
I was going to say, often does not. Yeah. I also want to talk about what do you think of the costumes? How do you like the look of the film costumes?
The Devil in a Blue Dress, like her
blue dresses.
Her blue dresses were pretty cool.
Her blue dresses are great. So
those
Sharon
are pretty
Davis.
cool. I want those.
I want those too. No, I think that the clothing is just magnificent. So Sharon Davis was the costume designer who went on to do she did a lot of things, including Dreamgirls, and Django. She was the costume designer. But yeah, I think they nail that
the
40s
costumes
look.
are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want all the Devil in the Blue dresses.
I do too.
So pretty.
All of her
I want
costumes.
mini versions of those.
Right?
That
like
I could wear.
her like when he goes to the Ambassador Hotel and she's like in that like house dress. I mean, that was just something for like lounging around in. Like that wasn't something you'd even I need to lounge. I don't feel like I can lounge around our home in something like that. I feel like I would look ridiculous.
Home in something like that.
Do you? Should we try it? Should we see if we can get ourselves fancy house coats to wear?
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
We do, as we are doing a podcast for children.
Mm-hmm.
We probably need to talk about the uncomfortable part.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Well, I
not kid friendly.
I certainly wouldn't go. I certainly wouldn't go lower than age 10, where she is.
There's one semi-graphic sex scene.
No nudity in it.
No nudity,
There's
but it's
nudity.
It's very thrusty.
It's very sexy.
What'd you think about that, Gable?
Covered my eyes.
So you had no idea what was happening?
I
You were like, what could possibly be happening?
Yeah,
I don't
now
know.
that my eyes are covered.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
should. I don't know if it's ridiculous. I don't know. It was just like this is like a mom's just like gut reaction to cover the eyes, and I don't know if I should have.
Was that like, we need
I don't know
to
if that's just stupid or not.
is that time for us to have a conversation with you about it, Gable?
No,
Do you want to do it on a podcast?
No, I'm alright.
Don't we
You're
have
good?
that book that we
We did
gave
give her a
her
book.
when she was
The
like
American-
5?
Alright.
Do you want the American Girl book about
What?
sex that mom got you?
What?
No, there was that
There's
other
not an
one.
American Girl one?
The one that your dad
Oh,
recommended.
that's true.
That one's in her room somewhere.
All right, we'll do that.
So there is
Go
that.
read a book. Don't
no,
talk to us
I'm
anymore.
alright.
We're not
I'm
that
alright.
Um,
I'm alright.
yeah. So my gut reaction was to just cover her eyes during that scene. So it's
I'll
just
wait
that
until
one scene.
I'll wait until I'm like 15.
But like I mentioned to you, like, what does it say to us about a society that I covered her eyes at the sex scene, but when people are getting their heads blown off, we like
Totally fine.
no attempt to.
I mean, if I like
block
draws,
that.
then I think I'm fine with heads being blown up. I mean, it's
I
not
know,
particularly
still,
good, but you know,
still, what does that say about our just Puritan?
it's better than
Society
whatever
here in
you
the
were saying
US.
before.
Yeah. So the violence is there as well. I mean, I don't think. I was fine with her seeing it, but
It's because I like Jaws, and
Yeah.
also because Daddy has like posters of heads being blown off in his office.
I can't say I was watching this and going, well, she likes Jaws, so this is okay. I wasn't.
That is not actually math that any parent does in their head. They do not let the movies you watch and how they correspond to Jaws determine every decision in their lives the way that you might think they do.
Jaws and Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
me.
that's really not
This
the.
is somewhere between.
Jaws
We
and
On
we
the
might
Jaws Harry
present
Potter
it to you.
scale.
We might present things to you as, it's kind of like Jaws, but that's generally just because we want you to watch something that isn't Jaws or Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That's
I haven't
generally
watched
how
Harry
that works.
Potter in months.
Oh, I know, and it's so great. What a relaxing break.
I haven't read Harry Potter in a month either. It's driving me crazy.
But you still listen to it every. She goes to bed listening to the Harry Potter audiobook.
Yeah, and then I just kind of.
So I feel like that.
I just
What's
kinda
that guy's
want-
name? Who's the narrator? Do you remember his name? I feel like he's a member of the family because I just hear he like lulls us all to sleep every night.
He's so good at the voices.
He is very good at the voices, but it's been months of this man lulling
In our home.
us to sleep every night.
That's what Daddy gets for buying me all the audiobooks for our trip back from San Francisco.
You thought it was a good idea a year ago. That is. Anyway, I would say, just parents be cautioned. But there are certainly worse things out there.
So Gable,
The Gable's Mouse scale.
well, I think first, do you think your friends would be interested in it?
No.
Do you think you learned anything about society and the world at large in the Black experience?
Sure.
Really?
That was like a bunch of stuff.
No, I mean really.
Yeah.
Like, do you
But
feel
I mean,
like
do you feel like you did learn something?
Yeah.
Like blood and guts aside.
Yeah.
literally?
Yeah. Do you feel like you learned something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What? Pop quiz.
What? You just asked me.
All right. So then, to our usual rating system, Gable. How many Gable smiles? It's ridiculous that it's called Gable Smiles. So what a weird thing we did. How did this end up being?
That was you, Dada. That was definitely you. You asked me.
And I think,
time.
and approach it from, like a storytelling standpoint, not, I don't know. I don't even know what the Gable Smiles are based on. Whatever. Go ahead.
1 is I did not like it at all. 2 is it was all right.
Okay.
3 is like it was okay. Like I liked it.
What's the difference between it was
4.
all right and it was okay?
1 was I didn't like it.
Okay.
2 was like it was all right. I probably wouldn't watch it again.
Okay.
3 is like it's okay, which means like I'd probably watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like like it was okay.
Okay.
I was all right with it.
Okay.
4 is I liked it and I'd probably watch again, and only like 3
And
movies
5
get
is
5.
Jaws. Okay.
5 is Jaws and Harry Potter.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
So 5 does not need a definition. Because rare movies,
Okay.
rare few movies get a 5.
Mm-hmm.
So Gable. A lot of preamble. A lot of preamble.
Mommy asked.
So Devil in a Blue Dress, how many Gable Smiles does it get?
2.
2. So it was all right. You would watch it again.
Yeah. And I'm like, maybe.
What about
but probably
Denzel?
not.
Well, how many did Denzel get?
What?
The actor, the main guy.
4. He was pretty good.
He is pretty. I know.
He is perfectly symmetrical.
What?
Is he really?
His face is perfectly symmetrical.
Really?
Really?
If you took like half his face and then just flipped it and put them next to each other, you couldn't tell.
How did you know that?
I read an article.
You read an article about Denzel's symmetrical face?
Yes.
There's one thing I wanted to point out. There's like the guy who's paying, like not the mayor guy, but like the guy who's paying to find the girl.
Mm-hmm.
His face is all squished together. It just looks
you
so
mean
weird.
You mean the
The one who hires him?
Yeah.
the one who hires him in the first place,
Yeah.
or the one who hires him second?
The guy with the giant mansion thing.
That's the second guy.
Oh,
Yeah, that guy. Like at the end, who gives him the money.
That guy co-founded the Steppenwolf Theater.
Yeah,
with
his
Gary
face
Sinise.
is all
Did he really?
squished together. It looks so weird.
That main guy is a guy named Tom Sizemore who just had a complete meltdown of his career.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, back then, not now. That was a while ago.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's all my trivia. That's all I got.
What else with Denzel can we show her?
Glory.
I mean, he's so good in Glory. Like, he really is. And Andre Braugher's in Glory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. You want to watch a Civil War movie, Gable?
No. We're almost at another.
It's
war,
really
so I'm fine.
depressing.
No.
But Gable,
Why would I
the
want
good
to watch
guys
that?
win at the end of Glory.
No, I'm
But
alright.
the good guys win.
No, I'm alright.
I mean, in general sense, the good guys win.
No, I'm alright, Dada.
They don't.
No.
We don't get to. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
They don't actually show Appomattox Courthouse in Glory.
I'm saying you pull back and
Surrender.
you understand conceptually what happens in the Civil War. The good guys win.
No, I'm alright, Dada.
But did they?
I've spoken.
Did
Man
you,
on fire.
Did you finish watching the impeachment trial today? Did the good
Man.
guys win?
We can show her
No,
we can show her
they
Man on
didn't.
Fire. We can show her.
No.
We can't show her Man on Fire. Let's show
I
her.
guess
No.
we'll just watch St. Elsewhere.
No.
He is on my favorite TV show of all time, St. Elsewhere.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying no, I don't
Oh,
want to
St.
watch
Elsewhere
it.
is really good, though.
You like St. Elsewhere?
What?
It's the one about the hospital.
What? When have I ever watched it?
We've watched it. We
She's
watched
watched
episodes
it?
of it. Yeah.
When have-
I would like to point out, Gable, you said you never wanted to watch Star Trek, and now you get mad when Dad watches episodes of Next Generation without
No, I
you.
get mad when like we start watching an episode and then he starts and he finishes it without me.
That's a
You
much different thing that you're
monster.
arguing about.
You're a monster, Josh.
Well, this is really devolved once again.
Well, I loved this movie. I'd probably give this 5 Christina smiles.
How many Joshy smiles did you give
I
it?
don't smile generally. It's not really a
He
thing I do.
doesn't. How
Grimaces,
many Joshy frowns? How many Joshy grimaces?
I give it 5.
I give it
It's
5.
excellent. No, it's
I give it
listen.
2.
No.
Parents, listen. Don't listen to my kid. She's wrong. She's gonna storm off. She's quitting.
Well, what we were discussing earlier is that when I was pregnant with you, Gable, Dad, for some inexplicable reason, showed me a movie called Seven, which is like this super, super gruesome movie, which ultimately a pregnant woman's head ends up in a box.
Spoilers.
And I don't.
Nobody's gonna watch it, though.
Oh, people will watch it, Gable.
No.
Hasn't everybody watched Seven who's gonna watch Seven? Because
She hasn't.
No, I'm not.
we're not
watching
showing
it
her
ever.
Seven. By the time we show it, she's gonna forget we ever talked about it. But I'm gonna say, because I was pregnant and watched this movie, it just, it sent these like
filtered
shock
back down to
did,
me.
like sent these shockwaves into your little, fetal body that has made you not want to watch violence at all.
No.
No?
No.
What,
No,
Josh?
No.
Guys are a
No.
bunch
No
of
violence
wusses.
whatever.
Bunch of wusses.
No.
Well, until Daddy's being mean.
I think you're being mean.
5 out of 5. You should definitely watch it. Don't listen to my kid.
Oh yeah, definitely
no.
watch this movie.
No, stop it. You literally said at the beginning that this movie is about this podcast is about what I think,
Well, yeah,
not
I'm
what
saying
you
it
guys
is.
think.
It's fine. People can listen to what you say. I'm just saying you're wrong. That's all. It's fine.
There's no right or wrong.
No,
Isn't there-
this movie's really good.
Me. Harry Potter's awesome, and you don't like it at all.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
it?
until Daddy's being mean.
I know, he really
Valentine's
is.
Day.
We've really been in this house
Mean.
together for too long, haven't we?
Until Daddy's being mean.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you
being
so
mean.
much to Rob Guillory for the suggestion.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week. I think I can say that, but we're doing
Are we?
Motown presents Barry Gordy's : The Last Dragon is our movie for next
really?
week. Yes. What?
The animated one?
No, that's How to Train Your Dragon.
No, there's a different animated one that just came out.
No, that's different also.
Oh. I thought there's one about it.
That's like
about a
Arya
girl
and the Dragon. That one you're talking about? The Disney movie?
Yeah.
No, my friend worked on that though. My buddies worked on that.
I thought we were going to watch that.
No.
I don't know if I've seen The Last Dragon. Is that something that would have been on cable a lot?
Yes.
And I probably
Is
have,
it
but it's
about-
probably been 35 years.
Vanity is in it.
Is
honey.
it about
Vanity.
a dragon
know
or is it about karate?
I
It's
think
about karate, honey. For God's sake, get it together.
All the ones that have dragon in the title are about karate. And I go into it being like, cool, it's about a dragon.
so. Now you know. There's no dragon.
I don't want to watch it if it doesn't have a dragon in it.
Trust me, you're gonna want to watch it. It's amazing.
No.
It's a good time.
No.
It's a good time.
No.
Well, that's what's been recommended. So that is what we shall be watching.
You're gonna learn. You're gonna learn to love.
You should watch. You know what? Do you know who would sit down and watch karate movies with you all day and all night?
Oh.
Your grandma, Grandma Louise. She loves karate movies.
Yeah, no thanks.
You know who would never sit down and watch kung fu movies with you?
Grandma Mo.
Yeah. My parents. My parents have no interest in that thing.
Okay, are we done?
Especially like that. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you in a week.
Bye.
The Little Miss Movies podcast is hosted by Christina Rice, Gable Fialkov, and me, Josh Fialkov. We're recorded, mixed, and produced in North Hollywood, California. Series art by Gable. Episode art by Gable Fialkov. Theme song by Gibby and the Bees. All content copyright 2021 Valoria Shines Inc. Visit us online for more at littlemissmovies.com.